Oh, hey there. Welcome to the job site. We are in Manchester, Michigan, where we are installing an aeration system on a natural bottom pond. And this video here that you are watching, is an educational video to teach you a little bit about what it is we're doing and why it's important. So let me turn you back around and we will get this thing figured out. All right, so you have a natural bottom pond. This was actually a man-made pond. And with a backstory behind this real quick is that this place used to be a horse farm where they raised thoroughbred horses. And so this pond was excavated to train horses, believe it or not. So that's the story we were told. And I guess they would kind of bring the horses through the lengthwise of the pond, and that would build up their muscles and their strength and make them a better racing horse, I guess. I'm not really sure, but still a cool story. This pond is natural spring fed, so they probably had water already in this location. Clearly there's a big lake in the background, right? And so this pond was probably excavated because it just made sense for that particular location, and then they could double it up and use it for what they used it for, training horses. The new client, the homeowner that lives here now, had a natural spring coming up, and this is what we got here. And so they had this concrete little basin here that has pipes and drains that run over to the pond so that they could use this space over here because it was always wet from draining over towards the pond. You can see it's probably a little backed up from some of the leaves, so it's starting to come around, and that was the problem that they had before. So anyways, they had this dredge not too long ago. They were having some issues with muck accumulation and then overgrowth of chara and some seaweeds. And they wanted to do what they could to improve the ecosystem of this pond. And so they called us in, and we came out and had a meeting. We talked about circulation, providing oxygen. It's, with a fresh spring pond like this, you're going to get quite a bit of oxygen. But you're also going to get a lot of iron and other nutrients that are coming straight up from deep down in the ground. And so it's good to circulate things because you can see there's like a film down on the water right now. And there's a lot of different things that are happening, right? So you got all these leaves right now. It's October in Michigan. So we're getting a lot of breakdown of materials and things like that. So when that happens, you're going to get growth of lots of different things. So you can kind of see it's suppressed right now because of the pondi, but you can see the chara, it's down there. And even after dredging and stuff, that stuff's going to remain, obviously, right? It's an algae and there's tiny little spores. So as long as that is prevalent in here, you're going to have that going on. So for a pond like this, oxygen is key. You're going to add that dissolved oxygen. It's going to create the ideal environment for bacteria and other microorganisms, but also fish. So when you have this chara and different things like that, if you can diversify the fish population, you're going to have a lot of things that are going to be feeding on that, and it can create a real good balance. But with a man-made pond, it can be very difficult if not using other substances like the aeration system and treatments for it to do it on its own. Because if you've watched my videos before, a lot of these cases, Mother Nature's just trying to fill things in. I mean, that's really what it is at the end of the day. So yeah, it can stay balanced for quite some time, and then at some point, when the plant growth gets out of control and the algae growth, you get eutrophication, and that's death of a pond. And then from eutrophication, it continues to fill in, becomes a wetland, yada, yada, yada. That's not what this video is about, but you get the idea. So for this one, because they just recently had it dredged, we're putting in an aeration system. So over here is a Vertex aquatic ecosystem. This is a diffuser here, and this is the air station. So this one is an X1, and we are going to be connecting the weighted airline to that. And you can see in our process, and why I'm shooting the video today is basically how we do this. You lay out your air stations. So based on the map, Vertex is a great company that we work with that I go out in a kayak and I get the depths of the pond. They put a map together and we know exactly where the best spots are going to be based on those depths and how much turnover rate and oxygen cubic feet per minute that we want to deliver to this pond in particular, based on its volume and a lot of calculations that it helps to have a professional teach you about. So turnover rates are really going to depend. A lot of people talk about this very differently. I look at turnover rates as, the bare minimum is you want to turn it over at least once in a 24-hour period. That's bare minimum to me. But when you look at a system like this, and we've got all these trees on this side, and then see this slope and all the rain, you can see all that stuff and all this erosion. Plus we're getting iron and other nutrients that are coming from the aquifer and that spring-fed concrete thing that you saw before. I'm going to want to increase the turnover rate, right? I want this thing to turn over multiple times in a day. Those turnover rates are, basically the level of oxygen that's being provided, but turning that thing over more and more is going to ensure that we're getting enough oxygen so that our bacterias and all kinds of other microorganisms are thriving in a system like this. The more turnover that we can get, there is a limit, so I won't say that, but the more turnover rate that we get, the better off those things are going to be working, and it's going to help balance the ecosystem and break things down like we want it to. You think of the wastewater industry, they're turning things over a lot because they got to break things down, and they got to break them down quickly and efficiently. So that is what's happening in that situation. So that's where some of this stuff comes from. So you can get another look at the angle of the pond and all the debris that I'm talking about. Over here, like I said, is the area that this pond is overflowing. So we got 2 air stations going in this pond. I call this a Q-tip pond. It's kind of shaped like a Q-tip. So we're going to center that air station out in the center of this wider part in the Q-tip. Here's your overflow here, and it goes down to the lake. And then we're going to put another one in the other area down on this other end of the Q-tip. What you can see over there on the hill is my man Dan. He is trenching the airline in while I'm shooting this video. So up on top of the hill by the house, we have a backup generator which actually has a outlet on it, and that outlet could be used for the compressor. So that was made it easier for us on this particular aeration system install. So we're running the airline, which is the poly pipe from the top there, and we're bringing that down to the bottom. And then once we get down to water level, we can switch to the weighted airline. And so on the other side, and for the purpose of this video, the installation of the aeration system, you can see we place our air stations, and then we're going to lay out all of our weighted airline and make sure we have all the cuts and everything done. And then once those are done and we have them connected, or not, right before we have them connected, we're going to go ahead and get in a kayak. That's how we drop our air stations, and then we lower those air stations in the particular locations that we want them with a rope, and we drop them down into those areas so that they lay flat. And then the weighted airline is brought to the shore, where we're going to end up connecting it to the poly line that Dan's going to be installing here pretty soon. From there, all that stuff is connected, and then we can go ahead and connect the poly line to the compressor itself, which is up this way. So here is our compressor. We are using a Pond Lyfe 2 on this one. It was the one that worked best for this size pond, depth and volume. And so inside here is the compressor and the unit itself. And then right here is the connections that I was talking about. So that poly line is going to go down through here, down through the trench, and then we can connect it right in here to the generator itself. So you can see the insulation. There's our poly pipe, I should say. So there's airline. Airline is used mainly because if you don't have to, you can use that poly pipe, which is much cheaper than the weighted airline. It costs a lot more money to have to run that weighted airline all the way down doesn't make sense. So that, I mean, about covers the installation and how this goes. I could shoot a little bit more video of the actual process of dropping the stations in and how we feed the line and stuff like that. May not be in this particular video, but we'll definitely shoot more. But wanted to shoot this educational video of basically an installation of an aeration system, how we basically do it, really how simple it can be, and you know, talked about some of the benefits. So hopefully this one was educational for you. I know there's going to be questions that usually arise from this, people wanting to know if this is right for their pond, and how to get to where we are right now. And we can talk site consultations and things like that, which you should probably do. So reach us at 734-726-5061 if you're in the Michigan area, and or go to the website. The website's a good option too, www.poseidonponds.com. And one last thing is to remember that Poseidon Ponds and Landscaping is a company with a culture designed to transform our clients' health, homes, and lives through their landscapes and their natural water features.